Welcome to this week's memory review for the fifth grade confirmation class. This week we conclude the second article of the Apostles' Creed. Let's go over that. What does this mean? Who has redeemed me, a lost and condemned person, purchased and won me from all sins, from death, and from the power of the devil, not with gold or silver, but with his holy, precious blood, and with his innocent suffering and death, that I may be his own, and live under him in his kingdom, and serve him in everlasting righteousness, innocence, and blessedness, just as he has risen from the dead, lives and reigns to all eternity. I think this makes it very evident that it's hard to do this memory work if you don't kind of put the two pieces together. Before we dive into breaking down the memory work a little bit, I do want to help you to see that as we're working through this article in particular, we are answering very particular questions. The first question that we answer is, who is Jesus? I believe that Jesus Christ, true God, born of the Virgin Mary, begotten of the Father before all eternity, and also true man, born of the Virgin Mary, is my Lord. That's the very first question we ask. And then the next question, which begins this section, who has redeemed me? We're going to answer, well, what has this Jesus done? And we answer it right away. Well, he has redeemed me. And we unpack how that redemption has happened. And then finally, why does this matter? And that's the final section there. Well, it matters because he did this all that I may be his own and live with him forever. And I think if you just understand that basic structure, that can go a long way towards helping you to memorize it. Now, as we look at the chunks here, there's lots of ways you can break this one down, which can make it a little bit challenging. I've broken it down this way. Who has redeemed me? Break. A lost and condemned person? Break. Purchased and won me? Break. And then here's a long section. From all sins, from death, and from the power of the devil. I've put this long section together because sometimes it's easy. These are the three things that he has purchased and won me from, and that's important. And so link those together. All sins, from death, and from the power of the devil. And each one of those begins with a from to help you link it. Right, the next break. Not with gold or silver, break, but with his holy, precious blood, break. And with his innocent suffering and death. And this is a big break. That I may be his own, break, and live under him in his kingdom, break, and serve him in everlasting righteousness, innocence, and blessedness. That's another long one, but again, you have those three words linked together there. Righteousness, innocence, and blessedness. They all end in that S sound at the end, which is helpful, but it also helps, it also sometimes makes them get muddled. Remember this with just RIB. RIB, righteousness, innocence, and blessedness. And I think that usually helps us solidify this memory work chunk. And then just as he is risen from the dead, break, lives and reigns to all eternity, break. This is most certainly true. So I hope that that breakdown is helpful for you as you do the echo method and keep building on what we're working on here. But again, my encouragement is that, and expectation really, is that each child doesn't just learn this chunk, but they learn the entire meaning of the second article of the Creed, as with all the articles of the Creed. So do, after they work on this, work on putting it together with what they memorized last week. All right, now let's get into the vocab. Well, the very first vocab we have here is redeemed. That's kind of an important church word, but it's also a word that I understand many of us don't understand the definition of, and so it's important, and I want to clue you in on this. Redeemed is a finance word. I always used to use we redeem coupons, and the kids are kind of like, okay, I guess I kind of get that. But you know what? They redeem codes online all the time. And so actually they understand this redeem language all the time. It means to buy something back, right? You receive something, you turn it back in, and you get something, right? And so the main definition is to purchase back. You redeem a code. Well, Jesus Christ has redeemed us. He's brought us back to where we belong. and that finance language. In fact, when it says he has redeemed me, a lost and condemned person, when it says purchased and won me, that's really a synonym for redeemed. Redeemed and purchased and won are the same ideas. And hopefully that helps that idea to hang together, because we use that word redeemed a lot in the church. And I think oftentimes we know it's good, but we don't know exactly what it's getting at. And we find out that the purchase price to bring us back was actually expensive and unusual. It wasn't done with gold or silver, but it was done with Christ's death on the cross, his life given, his blood shed for us. Condemned. Well, that's what we are if Jesus doesn't purchase us back. We are set to be punished. And that's important. A condemned person hasn't received the punishment yet, but that punishment surely awaits them unless something changes. So condemned means set to be punished. And of course, the punishment for sin is death. Only Jesus can save us from this. That's sometimes why we use the word pardon as well. He spares us from our fate of being condemned. Precious. Well, this is his precious blood. And of course, precious means great value. It also means dear to us. And so we understand it in two ways. Jesus' blood is precious because he is the Son of God, and he is a perfect person. And so that gives his blood value. But it's also precious to us because of what it's accomplished. Jesus' blood is precious because it has won me, more precious than any gold or silver. And so we understand it in that way. That's what gives it its great value to us. Innocent. Well, that means not guilty. And of course, this is what's so key. If Jesus himself was guilty, he couldn't pay the cost for us. He'd have his own price to pay. But he has no price to pay. And so he willingly and freely gives himself for us. His innocence is key to understanding what his death on the cross has done for us. And then we jump to his kingdom, that I may be his own and live under him in his kingdom. Well, what is God's kingdom? We talk about that in a threefold way. We talk about his kingdom of power. That's often what we think about with God, like his wrath and maybe throwing fire down or bringing the flood on the earth. That's his judgment against sin. But that's not really the kingdom that Jesus wants us to live under. He actually wants us to live under the kingdom of his grace here on earth, where we know we won't be punished, and instead we know that we are forgiven. And that kingdom of grace is revealed to us in church. That's why it's so important for us to come to church, so that we may experience that grace regularly and live in it. And then the final kingdom is the kingdom that awaits us when Christ returns. That's his kingdom of glory, right? Jesus is seated at the right hand of God, and when he returns, he will usher us in, not to a place where we live by grace, but simply where we live in and under the glory of God forever. What a wonderful day that will be. Righteousness. Well, there's another important churchy word. Righteousness means right, but not by our own opinion. It means that we are without guilt, without sin, and this is not something I decide. It's a righteousness means that I am correct based on the standards and the laws of the universe. I am guided correctly and doing the right thing. And so when God gathers us, when Jesus gathers us into his kingdom, we will be righteous. We will be without sin or flaw or any failure in us. And then finally, blessedness. To be blessed by God is to be covered by his gifts and his grace. And what a wonderful picture that is. That's in fact what makes us righteous, what he gives to us, not who we are. Ever since the fall, we've been sinful, but we've been covered with God's blessedness. The blessedness of the gifts he gives us in this world, family and friends and houses and homes and things like that. But of course, more importantly, the salvation, the redemption he's given us in Jesus Christ. Well, I hope you find all of this very helpful. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. A reminder that we do not have class in this upcoming week as part of the Thanksgiving week for us, but we will be back in class on December 2nd. Look forward to seeing you then.